Welcome back to the channel, guys. Evac back with a little bit more discussion about tents. I've been doing a lot of soul searching recently about my tent, which is currently the Hubba Hubba NX. I've been looking at different tents. Why? I haven't got a clue. Maybe I want the wife to kill me or ask me to leave home with all this accumulation of kit I've got. I don't know. But it's basically stemmed from, I think, the main issue nowadays of trying to get the weight down. And I did have, prior to this Hubba Hubba NX, I did have the Hubba NX, which is the one-man version. But I'll be honest, it was like sleeping in a pizza box. I mean, there wasn't any room to swing a cat. There was literally no room around your sleeping pad to really put anything. And by the time you filled up the vestibule with your backpack and your boots and all your other bits and bobs, it was like hard to get in and out of it. So I decided to move that on and just use my Hubba Hubba NX, which is the two-man version of this tent. I've recently looked at a Hilleberg tunnel tent, but I've read so many reviews about them. They do get good reviews. Everybody seems to complain about condensation with these Hillebergs. And the other issue of the tunnel tent that I've read is they are completely reliant upon the staked out ends. And some people say, you know, the stakes come out or the stakes don't stay in, and then obviously you can end up with a tent collapse. So I'm just back again with my Hubba Hubba NX, which I do think is a fantastic tent. And I'll just tell you some of the other good things that I like about it in comparison with the Hubba One NX. So the main thing is you can actually have both the sides of the tent open there and have ventilation going through there. Sorry about the sound effects. I think my neighbour is cutting the grass. Obviously didn't realise I was making this video. I think it's getting more serious than the grass by the sounds of things. So yeah, so that's one of the things, is the cross flow of air that I really like about my Hubba. And you know, all these weights on the websites aren't right. My Hubba One NX was supposed to be 11.25 kilos, I think. Was it hell 11.25 kilos? It was more like 13.50 by the time I had to add the extra peg on the back to pull the fly sheet out to stop it hitting the inner tent. By the time I had to add the footprint and all of the rest of the paraphernalia, it was more like 13.50 kilos. So it turned out there was only about 400 grams difference between being stuffed in that little pizza box and having a bit more luxury of the Hubba Hubba, which is a two-man. So over the last few days I have been looking at some hacks for my Hubba Hubba just to get the weight down, because this again is about 1.8 kilos, 1.85 with the footprint, which is supplied by MSR, which I do have. However, with a 30D ripstop nylon floor, I'm just not convinced we actually need to have another footprint, which is about a 40 or 50D. So, you know, most of these tents, for example, the Big Agnes, Nemo, they're all using much lighter materials than the MSR. I think the floors on those tents are maybe 15D, so you've got a floor of half the weight. Obviously, with a much lighter floor, you need a footprint because it's not strong enough to withstand the normal rigors of camping out in the wild, the rocks and little twigs and things like that. However, with the Hubba Hubba having a 30D floor, I really don't think the MSR footprint is necessary. So I've bought myself, this is just a medical blanket, cost €5, and I've cut it down to size, and I just put that down now under the tent, put some rocks on each corner to stop it blowing away in the wind, and it works absolutely fine. I mean, it keeps the bottom of the tent dry, it keeps the bottom of the tent clean, and when I wake up in the morning, I just give it a shake. Maybe there's a bit of moisture on it, it just shakes straight off, and I just put it back in the bag with the tent. So that medical blanket weighs 50 grams opposed to nearly 200 for the official MSR Hubba Hubba footprint. So that's my first little hack. Now, my second little hack is, if I'm not going somewhere where it's going to be windy, I know it's hard to predict, but to be fair, I have never ever needed the guy lines on this tent. So if you take out the extra pegs you don't need, which is 4 of them, you need 2, 4, you need 6 to peg it out without the guy lines. So that saves a little bit of weight, around about another 50 grams or so. And the last little hack I found is that the Hubba Hubba compression sack or stuff sack, whilst it's a very good design with that open top to stuff the tent into with the poles, it's actually quite heavy with the compression straps, the buckles, the cinch cord. I think it weighs over 100 grams, that sack. So I've actually used now a Sea to Summit Ultrasil small compression sack, which weighs about 20 grams. So I can actually get the entire tent into that compression sack. It actually fits in my rucksack better, and the poles and pegs just go down the side. So with that configuration I've just told you about, I've actually got my Hubba Hubba down to 1.6 kilos, which I don't think is too bad, to be honest. There are lighter tents out there, but is the durability as good? Probably not. Are people actually buying the tent and then adding up all of the extras? I think a lot of the time, no. You know, by the time you add up your extra pegs, your footprints, your walking poles, if you've got a walking pole tent, that sort of thing, it all adds up. At least with the Hubba Hubba at 1.6 kilos, I know exactly where I am with this tent. It fits my pack great. It's sturdy. It's good in the wind. If you want to see my wind test, have a look on my videos. There's a video of this test in the wind, and it's nice and roomy for solo or 2 people backpacking. I'll just nip inside now, give you a little view inside of the space inside the tent. So there we are. I'm inside the tent now, and I use a Nemo Tensor wide sleeping pad, which I can get in here with a normal Nemo Tensor that my daughter has, but with the 2, the wide and the normal one, we have no more width space left inside the tent. But with my wide sleeping pad, by the time I've got my sleeping pad in and my backpack and my boots and my cooker and all the rest of the bits and bobs, to be honest, there's not really any room left. And it's so nice to have this little bit of extra room to be able to get in here and blow my pad up, to get changed, to put my backpack in here and not leave it outside on the ground. It's just so nice to have that little bit of extra space for the sake of, what, 400 grams extra weight. Really nice. And it's a lovely airy tent, this. I've never seen or heard of anybody having any condensation problems with this tent. I certainly haven't. I woke up in the morning and had a bit of dew on the outside of the fly sheet, but I've never ever had any condensation problems on the side of this tent. So that's my little further discussion about the Hubba. If you've got one and you've got any ideas yourself how to shave a few grams off it, by all means drop a line down in the comments. Hope this has been helpful, and stay tuned into the channel, guys. Cheers.